And I says to the guy, I says to him, get this, get your own monkey. All right, well, I'll see you later, Abraham Lincoln. You want to hear about my lesson plan template? Let's do it. So for my lesson plan, I decided to have the students run an experiment where they dissected owl pellets, which shows the indigestible remains, generally skeletal, sometimes fur, of whatever they ate. Throughout this experiment, the students can kind of, determine the diets of owls and kind of infer the diets of other animals. And then with that information, they can create a food web or chain and label the different consumers within that chain or web as, the producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, quaternary even, but yeah, that kind of stuff in my lesson plan. So for the first E, engage, essentially what I'd have do is all the students come in like normal and they'd sit down at their desks, and then I would announce to the class, hey, we're doing an experiment today, which is casually one of the easiest way to get students interested, even in a material that they're really not interested in. So the second you say experiment, they light up a little bit and they get excited. So during the same portion, I would run a demo lab on a document camera just to show them exactly how to pull apart the pellets, etc., things like that, remove the bones from them. And I would ask questions such as, oh, what kind of animals do you think that my owl ate? Things like that. And it would help them to start getting the gears turning to decide, what kinds of diets they think owls have. Additionally, I would have them ask things such as like, what are owl pellets? Because the first thing you think of when you hear pellet is you think it's poop. It's like a rat dropping, but it's not. Owl pellets are very similar to cats and hairballs. They cough them up just like that. So very different from poop. So for the second E, exploration or explore, at this point all of the students are in their groups and they all have their roles. And if you're interested in checking out my grouping and my role assignment, you can read my lesson plan. But at this point I'm walking around and all of the students are conducting their individual experiments, and each person is going to have a role to play in the group. So as I'm walking around, I'm also asking all of the groups individually questions to kind of make them think about what they're doing, such as, what do you think the diet of owls are? Based off of the findings that they're getting within the pellets. But even further, to relate it back to the food chain and web overlying assignment that I'm trying to put together, I'm asking them, so what kind of food do you think that the owl's prey eats? Because that extends it a little bit further than what they're tangibly seeing and feeling within the pellet. For the third E, explanation, at this point all of the students have finished their experiments, but they're still in their groups. I gather everyone's attention to the front board, and I construct a very crude, basic food chain involving grass, rodents, foxes, and wolves. And basically I explain exactly what a food chain and a food web is, and the difference between the two. Main difference is food web kind of gathers all of the organisms from a sample ecosystem, whereas a food chain kind of factors in maybe 4 to 5 max. So during this, I explain the roles that each organism plays in an ecosystem, such as grass being the producer, and they're autotrophic, so they produce their own food and energy. You have the rat that eats the grass, which is the primary consumer. Then you have the fox that eats the rodent, or rat, which is the secondary consumer. And then you have the wolf that eats the fox, which would be the tertiary consumer, which isn't eaten by any other organism. It also goes by quaternary consumer, but tertiary and quaternary are almost interchangeable at this point. So, additionally, while I'm going through this, I'm asking questions such as things like, are owls eaten by anything? Basic answer is going to be no. I don't know of anything that exclusively hunts owls. But, and another question that would really drive home student understanding between food chains and food webs would be, do ecosystems have only a handful of organisms, or are they chock full of them suckers? So student understanding of whether or not an ecosystem has a few organisms or very many is a very good distinction between food chain and food web, and that would be really good at gauging student understanding. Also at this part, I assign each group the assignment to develop their own individual food chain for the droppings that they found within their owl pellets. So they would kind of gather all of the different types of animals that they found their owl pellets contained, rodents, shrews, things like that, birds, and they would construct a very basic food chain with the owl at top and grass at the bottom, and then the three consumers in the middle based off of what they found. And then they would elect one person to draw their food chain on the board, and then we would go around the room once everyone is completed, and each person would explain, or each group I should say, would explain exactly why they chose to make their food chain the way they did. So for the fourth E, elaborate, I bring all of the students back to their desks, and I assign them an additional assignment. I tell them, now that we know what the food chain or food web of an owl or a forest ecosystem looks like, I want each of you to take out a piece of paper and extend it to an ecosystem of your choice. It can be aquatic, oceanic, anything like that, jungle, savanna, Arctic, anything you want. And I want you all to choose, your producers all the way up to your tertiary consumers for that ecosystem, and this will be your exit ticket for the day. This will also be a graded assignment, so make sure you do good on it. During this period, I would also continually walk around and ask students questions such as, I would look at what ecosystem they chose. So for an aquatic ecosystem, I would ask, is a great white an example of a tertiary consumer? Naturally, you're going to get yes, but you also, yes and no are both correct answers here, because you can include humans as a tertiary consumer of an aquatic ecosystem, because we interfere in metal. That's just the nature of us. So for the fifth and final E, it's probably the most simple. It kind of blends with the last one. It's just as the students are leaving, I'm gathering a little information from them as they turn in their food chain / webs for their individual ecosystems. And that's it for the day. That's everything for my lesson. Now that we've gone over all 5 E's, it's time to go over the 2 R's. I'm just playing. Thanks for watching my video.